segue. What's up, man?
Humor.
Humor. I'm humoring your ignoring of our conversation and using your cell phone.
I'm multitasking.
Multitasking. My cell phone is out but not on. Thank you very much, sir. Did you hide it? Scum, a lot of you. I'd like to welcome you all to another Right Night, of course. It is Wednesday this time. We're on the second floor of a very trendy, hip location. Like every week, I like to introduce everyone so we know who's here. I'm actually curious, has everyone met each other at this point, or are we still offset?
The pleasure to meet
This
you.
is kind of good then, because so far we've had a good ratio of different people every week or so. Mix it up. So that's why we always keep introducing ourselves, just in case. And to refresh, in case you have no idea who I am anymore. It's been a week, right? So myself... Well, I meant you to me, whatever. The point is, I was being self-deprecating and somehow I turned it around. I don't know what happened. Myself, Steven Shanahan, Shaggy Shan online. I tend to do web comics, and I will keep doing that until the end. Maybe a musical. Moving on, who else we got here?
I'm Jim Crone. I'm a comedian working on a web series and some other things. You've never heard of me, and there's a reason for that.
Not much.
Sell yourself, yes!
I'm Jorge Viveros, probably the only international.
What was that? Did you just speak and rewind?
Yeah. It's Jorge Viveros. Jorge.
Okay.
Jorge. It's like H-O-R and hey.
Yeah, there you go.
And
I like that.
I'm also a comedian and an actor, and I tend to write different stuff. I'm currently working on a live show play, all silent, and in a horror movie, so hopefully things come together.
I expect tickets because we work on this show together, right?
Yeah.
You can hook us up.
That makes us family.
Yeah.
We're family? Yeah. That's so sweet.
I don't have family in here, so might as well you guys come with me.
All right, who else we got here?
Andrew Anthony, actor, writer, and film editor.
Chris Cater, I write comics. Online is FluxFox.
FluxFox, what's up? I do remind you. Like, I do tell everyone to ignore the mic, but do speak up, sir.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes it's hard to adjust the level
You have
of
to
my
match
voice
your
sometimes,
talking to your
so
laughing.
it's-
You have a most boisterous laugh. There you go.
All right, so I'll start talking about this.
Listen, mother. Boisterous.
Boisterous.
I was reading
like
articles
moisture
on
with a B.
the volume wars and how people are maxing out audio to match the high kicks of the drums.
Oh yeah, that was.
Do that.
Okay. All right.
Alan
so,
Cross styles. Who else
so
we
I'll
got
start
here?
talking this loud.
Very good.
My name is Graham. I'm a registration and records advisor at a local community college.
Sorry, I don't know why you opened with that, but it made me laugh.
Carry on.
I assume you write things.
Mostly memos.
Thank you. And tonight's episode, of course, is about humor and comedy. All right.
You spent $2 just for that?
I had it in my closet. I swear to God.
He only spent $2 for it.
That's why he was late.
But how much would we sell that joke for? That's the question.
Somebody should have a little like womp
Fatal
womp.
trauma.
Came prepared to tackle you.
You laughed. It worked. All right.
We need a sax. It's just like, I like the way you're like pointing at the microphone. It's just like.
Shaggy, you really didn't have to buy that horn. I'm pretty sure there's an app for that.
I swear.
That is true.
As always, I'd like to open up with quotes that I sourced from Twitter. Today we got a response from Uncle C saying, regarding the terms of comedy, I don't know. Never write a character as intentionally funny. This guy's a stand-up comedian, because the expectation for the character to be funny will make it incredibly unfunny.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think it's similar to like movies when you're like, there was a Russell Brand movie where it's like, he's the best rock star ever, and you're like, those songs are all right.
Get him to the Greek.
Yeah, like I enjoyed the movie.
yeah.
I enjoyed the movie, but I'm like, why does everyone love his? It's all right music, but it's like when you say he's the best comedian of all time, and his jokes are kind of all right,
That's what's kind of
dangerous.
raising the bar. Yeah.
Is it setting a bar that doesn't exist?
Well, I mean, that doesn't just happen in writing. It's like someone tells you, oh, like Lenny Bruce is the greatest comedian who ever lived. Your expectations are going to be really high when you actually hear his jokes.
Unless you never heard a joke before, then you know.
Yeah.
So are we telling Uncle C he's wrong?
No, I'm just saying that it applies.
You're wrong.
I'm telling Uncle C he's
off the
wrong.
stage.
I'm telling Uncle Cy he's wrong because that's how you pronounce his name.
Oh, thank you.
No, I think it applies more to real life than just writing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a more accurate. I think it definitely says. Yeah. Nailed it.
There's not
I think you
points.
should
You're
drink
not
your
keeping
beer.
score
Yeah.
yet.
Actually, you're not.
There's an app for that. It's like, check,
Yeah.
burned him again.
Why do you think we all have the same tattoo of Roman numerals? I think
I have a much bigger tattoo of Roman numerals. Just to be clear, it's not the same.
I think that comment speaks to the nature of trying to be funny. I think that everyone knows that trying to be funny is less funny than just being funny. And I think that's what that speaks to.
That's a very good question. Like, is there people who are just naturally funny, and other people who like is trying? Is it? I don't want to say the word pathetic, but is it like bad to try?
Why are you gesturing to me? I don't like.
Well, I had to lean one way or another.
I think that when someone is trying to be funny, I'm seeing more squeeze than I'm enjoying juice. If that makes sense, I'm too distracted by your actions and what you're doing than what you're giving me. That's why the people we enjoy the most are the ones we say, man, you're funny. And it's always the guy who says, I'm not trying to be. It's like, we all know it's
You
the
say
guy who
funny
is
things.
funny. You say you're funny, without the busyness of it all.
This actually segues into the opening thing I was going to start with. This may make everyone uncomfortable, I warn you. First question, are you funny?
Well, the audience doesn't lie.
I think, do you mean like, do people call us funny, or do we think we're funny?
Well, I remember from vaguely watching, not to use this as an example, but like,
with just friends,
what,
or different people.
like,
To answer your question directly, I think that
I am hilarious.
I am funny and people think I'm funny, but I am also equally very not funny.
I was going to say charming or something. But
In a given week, for however many times I'm funny, I put my foot in my mouth, I'll do something gimmicky for the effect and it won't happen. I mean, the reason trying to be funny isn't as funny as being funny is the transaction. If I'm trying to be funny, it's selfish because I want you to think I'm funny.
Right.
Whereas
so you're like always waiting for an opening,
Yeah,
for like a
so-
punchline, like, your mom.
Exactly. And it's like, because you want everyone to laugh, and that's for me. That's really
High five,
selfish.
guys, high five, high five.
It's like everyone's laughing, and I just did it for the laugh. Whereas if someone is funny, it's you've given something to them. It's generous. And I think that you always, in all forms of art, have to be more generous than selfish. It's,
You say the nicest things at these meetings, I find. It's so inspiring.
But if you are going to call yourself a comedy writer, you have to inherently think that you're funny and think that your sketches
Or
are
is it
funny.
know that you're funny, but not say it?
But if you're writing, then it's implied. You don't even have to say it.
okay.
You're like, hey, I'm a comedy writer, but,
I'm
maybe
not really
funny.
we're not Anthony Jeselnik saying the next joke is fantastic.
So
Unless your entire formula for comedy writing is stealing other people's jokes.
Yeah.
Then that you
okay.
can.
But
Carlos
like,
Mencia.
Carlos
Are we calling people out now? That's rough.
Well, they're
No, you got you. Please. Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Come on.
I talk way too much. No, you go ahead.
This
Like,
fucking
in my
guy. Come on.
opinion, why are you looking at me like that?
This was a strictly visual joke.
Yeah, he's like,
Eye contact was
well,
made.
When like people say like, okay, what are you doing like for as a career? And I never ever say just like I'm a comedy writer, just like I'm so funny. Or
You make me laugh. I don't know.
I never like push the I never just tell a joke or like I'm not a stand-up guy, but like if I was a stand-up, I'll never like just like throw jokes. I'll just say I'm a comedy writer. Bam, that's all. And if people will find by themselves that I'm funny, while whether performing or having time with it. It comes to the point where like being like actually not like natural funny without just being like trying and doing that typical which
Nervous
annoys the living
laughs
crap
and
out of
stuff.
me.
Well, the moment you tell someone you're funny, that you think you're funny, they'll turn to you and go, "Well, tell me a joke," and then you're like,
I hate
"What-
I always
no
respond the
matter
same.
how
Jokes aren't funny.
There you go.
Yeah, and no matter how
Definitely.
funny what you say next actually is, they won't find it funny. Because now it's
expectation?
like the expectation's like, okay, well, this is
It's
going
like
to be the
gra-
most hilarious
Do you know what
thing
it
I've ever
is?
heard.
It's the second magic trick. It's
Yeah.
is this your
Yeah.
card? And they go,
Exactly.
do that trick again. I'm not going to do the trick again because now it's not a trick. Now it's you watching me very closely.
Oh, they're looking
Whereas-
for the holes now.
Yeah, you never want to do second
Trying to
trick.
find you sweat in your jokes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering about that because my background is like webcomics and my sister as well, and she does it's life stories, silly life stories. And one person commented, "Oh, you're so funny. You should be a stand-up comedian." And we're like, that's a different kind of like it's does funny transfer to all the mediums? Like if you're a good comic writer, do you think you can get on a mic and just talk and be funny?
Well,
I don't know.
think if
like,
you're really good at telling stories in a visual form, like just being sitting down with someone and telling a story, you can do stand-up and be great.
You can do anything if you've got a good hold of the English language. Yeah. no joke. If you just but the thing is, what I mean to say is, if you can communicate, people who can concisely communicate their thoughts, I'm happy to listen to you. And if you're happy to listen to someone and make my job as a listener easy, anything can happen. Like your jokes will land maybe. Like if I don't have to work to understand what you're communicating, be it with words, be it with physical comedy, as long as it's clear. So I couldn't agree more. As long as you're a good storyteller.
Okay, I do find that because any comedians I watch, I tend to favor ones that like I enjoy like the rapid fire, like the one-liner jokes is a nice treat once in a while. Where it's just like, man, that's just a lot of dumb things. It's amazing and funny.
A lot of them.
Well, okay, but the point is, I like to be engaged. And, I'm not like, here comes the punchline, here comes the punchline, but like when it comes, I'm like, yeah, punchline, and it's just an enjoyable experience. Actually, to that question, who here has attempted or done stand-up comedy? Looking to the right of the table at our comedians.
It was compulsory.
We're not.
Did you guys do the comedy thing at Humber? Or
Yeah. I actually want to hear about this. This is why I'm glad you're here tonight.
I know. You go first because I already talked.
Starting with me. Okay, where do I start?
Well, I'll open with how do people? Can you learn comedy? Is my biggest question, honestly.
Well, what they told us like repeatedly while we were there is the last thing we were expected to be was funny.
All right.
Because you had to audition to get in, so I guess
To the
it was
course.
automatically implied that if you got in, you were funny enough to be
I
there.
want to hear about this now. So, like,
how do you audition to write?
Did you come out of high school, or did you after, or
I attempted college once after high school, kind of failed.
took a break?
Yeah.
So then you came back. You're like, all right, I have to audition. You do stand up. How do you audition?
What you had to do is you had to bring in something you wrote.
Yeah.
So I had a short story about a superhero that I wrote.
All right.
I don't know if they ever actually read it. Yeah.
Stream of consciousness. You just let it go.
So then we're brought into a room with like 5 or 6 other people also auditioning.
Improv. We did like a
That
group
sounds
improv
terrifying
thing.
to me.
Yeah, it is terrifying, especially for
Do you have to wear black T-shirts and stuff?
No,
You're
no,
like,
it
you're
was
a
just-
blank slate now.
It was just part of the audition round, and you like do the freeze game or whatever.
Sorry, do you know in my mind when you were wrong about your guess, I thought you were gonna casually tell him something absurd. No, we just hung there by our teeth.
Yeah.
And you had to fill in the
A guy
blanks.
took turns hitting us with a dead cat. Like it flinched you, right?
Person is your character. You're out of here.
So
You
this,
have no comedy.
this program is all the fortes, I guess. Writing it, stand up, and sketch.
So improv, stand-up, writing. Is there a? Well, continue. I'm hearing this process. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Make it funny.
I
can bring the horn back out if you need it.
In my experience, like it was improv and stand-up are the most terrifying things because English is not my first language, so obviously I can. When people say like, oh, they do like a character out of nowhere, and I'm just like. Damn it, because I think first in Spanish, then I had to translate it in English. Same thing of stand-up, I cannot write puns. But thanks to the comedy program,
He's winking and nudging.
For the microphone. Thank you.
People were just saying like, oh, you're good at physical comedy. So I started doing,
Winking and nudging.
imagine I started.
That's called a
Writing
callback
more.
in comedy terms.
I started
Could be a tag, but it's a callback.
I started running more physical stuff because it's pretty much what I can do. Sometimes I do like I did stand up because they pretty much for the stand up class like there was no like I cannot do it. No, you have to do it.
Wow.
So I go to Yuck Yucks at least
So
1 or 2
in Toronto,
minutes.
was it Yuck Yucks in Toronto, or was
Yeah,
it local
like
Yuck Yucks?
the one.
There's one on
The one near the Scotia
Richmond.
Bay, the one down by the Scotia Bay.
Yep. Yeah, that one.
I've been to One Humber Comedy Night. I remember that.
Yeah,
lot of notepads.
You have to go there. You
It's
cannot
unique.
get away.
It's magical.
Yeah. It is terrifying. Yeah, but
How'd you feel like that? So you've done this. You've done the stand-up. very first time, did you do a pre-stand-up at school, or is this the first time is on stage?
We got 2 runs at the school.
Yeah, timed runs.
Timed. Wow.
That was the most important thing. You'd fail if you went over or under time by, I think, 15 seconds.
Do you just cut half the joke and go, good night, and drop the mic and run away? Something like that?
Oh, some people do that.
Teacher with a stopwatch and a tracksuit.
No, there was.
The microphone electrocutes you.
There was
Gatorade on you afterwards.
It was pretty much the stage, and the teacher was like with the mic, and he would be like nodding his head or shaking or just being like.
Wait, is there any audience, or is it just this shaking teacher?
Yeah, the student audience.
Like
so
you have a punchline, it's shake.
Well, the worst things about all the professors is none of them laughed.
Yeah,
they know every joke.
I was gonna
right?
say, like, what if
you got them
what if
to
you're
nod,
over
that
time
was
and
it.
he finds something funny and he's conflicted, like, I'm really disappointed, but I like
they-
it.
Sets back the clock a
they
little,
laugh-
just for you.
If they laugh, I think it's whether you did something really, really freaking good or really, really terrible.
It's
that
so bad.
embarrassing. Yeah.
I
But it's just like
hearing somewhere that like comedians, the greatest compliment one comedian can get from another isn't for them to laugh, but for them to be like, yeah, it was funny. That's like they just sort of like, yeah, that was a good.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that
Because
was
they've
like,
heard it all.
So like an intellectual level rather
Yeah, kind of
than
like,
good
nice.
show, sir.
good show. GG.
Well played. No, bully.
Corking set!
I like that. That's amazing. So my curiosity of the whole course is like, is it all very active, or do you have to like do theory of comedy? Is there like, what's funny? What tickles the funny bone? You know?
In sketch sometimes we study the structure of the sketch about like the introduction, the explanation in 3 lines and everything. In improv, the typical never say no or whatever.
Yes, not no, but.
Yeah, yes and in stand-up timing, deliverance. If you have a character, work on it, and a lot of interesting people.
We very briefly touched on the theory of what makes something funny in stand-up, I
Yeah.
That's a strange thing, because comedy is very by the ages and subjective, and the
You're
culture.
telling them they went to school for it.
Tell me what comedy is like. But that's true. Like we all know that, because everyone has a different sense of humor, different cultures, different. Like I was thinking about like web memes, like internet memes, and some cultures have memes that we do not get at all. Like and I don't have an example. I was just saying they do.
Jacob and I were filming our attempt at, remember the sketch show Loki Cthulhu of it?
Oh, I've seen that.
We were filming something called Ketchup Baby, and we called it Ketchup Baby Comedy. And we felt like there was an evolution of comedy. There was the Commedia dell'arte stock comedy that you'll get in slapstick a lot, like I Love Lucy and 50 shows like that. People getting hit, or like those wild scenarios that have now become cookie cutter shit. That's not funny.
It's more, ironically using that scenario. Like,
Yes.
we're in a situation.
Then
and the joke is how repetitive it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then comedy kind of evolved into having this zany other. You got your buddy cops, and then you've got Leo Getz. And so there's drawing attention. And I feel like comedy, the scope is slowly going more and more inward to the point where it became tongue-in-cheeky and then subtle, and then it became about not being funny, and then it kind of turned into I'm talking about popular humor, by the way, not just comedy in general. And then it evolved to popular humor became like dark humor, and then it turned into now, I think through like things mostly powered through by like Will Ferrell characters, but there's this angry comedy that no longer is tongue-in-cheek, where it's funny and you're a fly on the wall watching. Now it's very in your face, and it's, you're gonna laugh at this, and and we find that funny. We like to be implicated. So Ketchup Baby humor, the sketch was really simple. I had baby Maddie, who was just born, strapped to my chest. I'm in a cafe, and I'm reading a newspaper, and Jake is tables away, and he admires the baby, and he makes a couple of cute faces. I see the time on my phone, and I'm late. But late for what? And I just start squirting ketchup on this baby's head, and I'm massaging it into his skull, just my everyday.
Deadpan for the viewers.
And then I even turned away, like, what's your problem? Like, I was looking at you like you're the crazy person. So over here,
like if a woman catches you staring at her while she's breastfeeding, that sort of look.
yes, that yes, exactly that. So basically, what's happened is I feel like, as far as the evolution of popular comedy, this scope used to be about sending it out and being slapstick and crazy, and it just got introverted into I am the subject of the comedy right here, and I'm looking at you, daring you not to laugh at me, because I take this comedy. This isn't comedy. This is so serious to me. This baby needs ketchup on its head. How dare you stare at me?
It's a ludicrous scenario taken dead seriously.
It's now this, like, I'm not being tongue-in-cheek British humor where you see that I know I'm funny.
Yeah.
But now it's very just, I don't know, I find it's evolved into that, this glaring...
The subtlety is definitely there, like one of my favorite shows right now, of course, Community. And some of the humor just comes from someone will say something, they cut to another person, they just move their eyes towards someone else. And depending on, me saying that now, that can mean nothing. But in context, it's like they wrote this and said, now she looks that way. And it's like the funniest thing ever for some reason.
Yeah.
But it's a very small moment. It's not like, and then she looks and the audience will go nuts.
Do you want to know what my favorite sketch in the last 5 years, no, maybe it's longer than that, but my favorite sketch that anything written by Will Forte, probably, because he's just insanity. If you ever see something on SNL that's insane, he probably wrote it. It was a Christmas sketch with Hugh Laurie from House, and so much more. I'm just saying that for North American people. Like
Graham likes House.
House is literally like the tail end of this man's career. Like he's got so much a body of work. But in this sketch, everyone's mad at each other. Like, beautiful music is playing, everyone's having Christmas dinner, no one is fucking talking, and they are glaring at each other. And then finally just, Judith, can you pass the gravy? And then it's like she passes it, everyone looks around like, oh my god, he's talking to Judith. They take that, and then Janice at the end of the table gets up, she has to leave. No, everyone freaks out, stay down! And they erupt, and she sits back down reluctantly, she's shaking her head, she's gonna cry. 3 minutes. 3 minutes of nobody having a conversation. Everyone at this Christmas dinner is livid. So the comedy is you have to suppose what happened just before the camera rolled.
Yeah.
Did somebody punch mom in the face? And they only revisited it once ever with like Seth Rogen. And it was, he goes into his boss's office. Boss is livid. And he goes, I asked you to prepare this like audio tape for the presentation for the Japanese clients this weekend. Do you want to hear what was on that tape? Seth goes, sure, I guess. They hit play, and it's from Grease, you're the one that I want, you are the only one. So this joyous song is playing, and it's just them glaring at each other.
That's the reason I find that amazingly funny.
Oh, God, it was so funny. And I thought to myself, you guys as comedy writers, anyone, how do you put that on paper?
That's my thought. Like that one look of the eye. Is that written down?
Translation.
And then Britta looks at Pierce.
Translation can be a killer for comedy. I think that sometimes you really have to trust who's going to perform it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'll write things specifically for Jorge. Like we're in the same sketch troupe, and I know he can handle it. And like in someone else's hands, it might not be funny.
Which good example?
Mayan IT maybe.
Well, that's pretty much like
I wrote where. The Mayan apocalypse, so in an attempt to save the world, the guy calls tech support.
Nice.
And he gets Jorge, who's just absolutely not helpful.
Sea fly.
And keeps putting him on hold. And the song when he goes on hold is Tarzan Boy. And we just kept having like both of them sitting awkwardly through Tarzan Boy on stage.
Just staring at each other.
It worked.
Yeah,
that's hysterical.
And he just saw me just play like.
I'll take another organic.
Sure. I'll go Thursdays. Why not?
You got it.
It's a special night.
Thirdsies.
I think
Sounds
really,
better than foursies.
I don't know. It really comes to like the who you trust.
Yeah.
You know, if
who fits the role.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that is that who if you want to put a comedy a sketch film, you have to think of the actor and who can direct and who can understand your alienized writing.
Yeah.
Because as for me, I have so much problems because most of the things that I write are silent. And they just say, dog is really happy, dog grabbed the broom and blah, 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 blah. And every time the teacher says, like, I cannot direct this, help me. So I'll just help him and tell him exactly what I need, what I need. So it is really hard, especially when you don't know the person that well.
Yeah.
I think that's why there's a lot of sketch comedy troupes around, because they have to know each other and they have to know the way they write. So
when you guys are watching anything for that matter as writers, maybe you do this too. I sometimes will hear something or see an exchange, and I'll think, how did that look on paper?
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
to do. It's a great exercise. It's like learning languages by watching foreign films with subtitles and like trying to learn it. Yeah, I mean, I'll watch something and go, that was really interesting. How would I put it on paper to make it exactly that?
Well, one thing is I was listening to all the commentary for Mr. Show. It's one of my favorite sketch shows.
Great commentary too.
And the thing is, a lot of the jokes actually came in the editing stage, where it's like there's one joke where Bob Odenkirk like holds up, I got concert tickets, and David Cross goes, oh, me. He's jumping up clapping. And the joke was they just kept cutting back and forth with Bob Odenkirk holding the tickets.
It was
David
the
Cross jumping up and down.
yeah.
And they like extend it for like a couple like extra minutes, like not minutes, but seconds. And the cut back and forth, I don't think it was on paper, but it was funnier in post. And as an editor first and like writer second, I really enjoy Mr. Show. For a lot of the jokes are just based on awkward editing, like when they make infomercials and things like that. Yeah, just stuff like that, like stuff that's so unnecessary. Or like when they do like the infomercial stuff, and the guy will be standing straight faced, and then it cuts to him smiling in the next shot, and that's the joke. I don't know if someone wrote down he's straight faced, there's an edit, and he's smiling, and that stuff blows my mind, because I'm just like, when you go through school, everything feels like it has to be so formal, so written down, and explained and paced, and I'm like, can comedy come in editing? Can the editor have a swing?
Well, first, go ahead.
Oh no, just saying that sometimes, like, when you write something, I think it's even when you're filming, I think it changes that. It
the actor, the moment, the angle.
Yeah, even some.
If you use a fisheye lens, like that changes everything.
I think pretty much, I want to say it's kind of the process, like whether you want to put it in.
One of the things that Kevin Smith was saying is that like he considers himself a writer first, then an editor, then a director, because it's like he does it for the writing, and he started directing just so that exactly what he wrote would come on screen. But he considers editing like doing another draft. It's like an opportunity to rewrite.
When I first got into editing, between then and now, I've definitely grown as an editor. It articulated my storytelling. And I think that's invaluable for joke writing in general, and directing and such. My mentor in editing had told me that this is where the show was made, like not just put together, but you realize editing is so formulaic, and there's so much theory to it and cookie cutter stuff. Anyone will tell you in editing, it's feeling. You feel it. It really is. You got to feel when to cut away. So, if there's exactly, and if there's this profession out there that is so heavy on the theory and the formula, but it relies on feeling, what does that say about everything else we're doing? Yeah, exactly. I mean, does theory really dictate? And it doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's all about feeling. Yeah.
Just like, because one cutaway can be funnier than anything someone says. It's such a strange balance.
You drew attention to one of the Bob Odenkirk things. I'm really glad you're intimate with the audio commentary enough.
Oh,
I
loved it. Very good.
The biggest number sketch.
That
is a perfect example of a sketch. 23?
23 is the
biggest number. Yeah. So they
Nothing
had this sketch, and there was a way they wanted it, so they put it on paper. It didn't stay the same by the time it got to paper to film. He wanted it to be cinematic rather than live studio audience sketch, etc. So many things got watered down and chopped up that by the end of it, by the time it was even cut, it was this different thing from point A, like Broken Telephone. But it was better, wasn't it? It was funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah,
it was a really good sketch.
So sometimes nothing ever does go to plan.
The other example I gave, which I really liked, was the Lincoln, the mustard Lincoln.
Yeah.
And he frees all the mustard slaves, whatever. And they all exit. And then he's on their shoulders celebrating. He's like pumping his arms, really like celebratory. He was told it was going to be slowed down in post, so it's cool to go really fast because it'd be epic. But they just didn't do it, so he's there with a straight face, pumping his arms really ambitiously. It's just the weirdest thing you see, because it's like, it's just like, it just added to the comedy. It's just like funny stuff can happen at many of the stages, kind of thing.
Yep. A lot of people, though, don't find Mr. Show very funny.
Oh, how can you say that?
Well, I'm just saying, I
find it funny?
I haven't watched much of it, to be honest.
But you should watch the Change for $1 sketch, but keep going, sorry.
Okay. Yes. I'm just saying that just listening to this, a lot of it comes from, like, it's you have to already know a lot about comedy and a lot about other ways sketches are supposed to go in order to find this funny, because it subverts your expectations. So if you go in not having seen much sketch comedy, you're just going to sit there being like,
what's this about?
I don't get
Where's
it.
the punchline? Why'd they cut away before?
That's interesting in its own. Just the idea of the audience. It's like Tim and Eric, awesome.
Python
show,
was a
show.
Praise Hosanna.
It's like it's so much of it is subverting your expectations, but you have to assume that the audience already has expectations of how it's supposed to go, and not. I mean, I work at a college with a bunch of people. Like I grew up in high school and university and stuff with a bunch of people who just were glued to pop culture. So that's what I was used to. I just sort of expected everyone was like that. And then I go to work now, and there are people who are like, and who's Jude Law again? It's like, they have no idea what's going on.
He's a lawyer.
So it's like they would not appreciate Mr. Shit. You know?
Would you say subversive humor is elitist humor then?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, do you mean like the hoity-toity connoisseurs of comedy?
Oh, I know what they're making
I could
fun
totally
of.
get on board with that. I think
They took a swing at sitcom standards.
But you know how England, my time over
I
there,
went back to Caesar for some reason. I don't know why.
they say that the class system is dead over in England. Like they don't care about that anymore. Not true. The class system is still there.
What class were you when you went to England?
Middle.
I was an actor.
Yeah, I was an actor with a really, really big flat though, and I didn't know it. I was like, "Oh, this is big over here." It's like, that same.
I can touch the back window and the door.
Yeah. that same classification, I think, is in comedy. I think there are circles of comedy. It's like, oh, you're into that kind of humor.
Yeah.
It's like, I know my mom is a real easy laugh. She will gobble up like really bad television comedy.
Well, that's true. Even here, that's true. I find out someone likes Big Bang Theory. That's pretty much it for any chance of us being friends. I mean,
have you seen? You know, I used to watch a lot of How I Met Your Mother. I used to just put it on background when I was like studying or whatever. If you see that show now, you realize you could have a checklist of just Barney has to say that and this that.
Yeah,
But there are people
Formulas are safe and they're familiar
exactly,
and you enjoy
they're
them.
tuning in for it. That's what they came there for.
Because like the problem going back to Community is it's so sporadic. Like there may be Jeff has an inspirational speech at the end, but there's so much random
make
shit.
reference to that.
But people
Yes,
might, they
Meta-
do.
The
People might be
meta
afraid.
saves that show a lot. If it weren't for Meta,
But Meta is that also elitist? Because people, the common audience, we say me saying the common, I'm an asshole elitist.
Yeah.
But it's like the general viewer being like, they're making a joke about a joke about a joke. It's like this Inception humor. What is this?
Well, if we're looking at the commoner's comedy as How I Met Your Mother and stock Commedia dell'arte rooted television shows, what would you guys say, in all your opinions, are the fine wine of comedy?
Arrested Development, I really enjoy.
Arrested Development.
The humor is very
timeless.
It was the next thing after Community was the next thing for me after Arrested Development because it was just no laugh track.
Yep.
And a lot of the jokes are very subtle, but I'm pausing so I can laugh during this show, so I don't miss the next
pretty
joke.
much killed television
It
comedy
did.
for me.
It ruined it. I can't do laugh tracks no more.
Yeah.
I remember.
I've had too many beers.
I do want to go back to your question, but one thing I remember distinctly was in grade school. A friend of mine was watching The Tick. There was a live action of The
Yes.
Tick. And he said to me, and I've never forgotten this, he's like, I didn't know it was funny because there was no laugh track. I didn't know when to laugh. And that stuck
Then
with
it's
me
not
forever.
funny.
Because whether it's funny or not, I don't know. But like, if he saw Arrested Development back then, would he be like, there was no laugh track. I didn't know when I was supposed to laugh. And I fear
That's why it's there.
the problem with laugh track is I was watching when I first started watching Big Bang. Like they have decent humor now and then. I'll say that. But they have a few jokes. But the first episode, I'm like, all these jokes are like physicist number humor. No general audience is going to get it. But there's a laugh track, and I'm like, I'm supposed to laugh now, but I don't. There's no joke there.
That was Big Bang.
But I'm gonna feel left out and stupid if I don't. But then I'm like, am I elitist now? Should I laugh? And then I'm in a conflict of my inner self. You guys talk about it.
No, for me, if I don't find something funny, I'm not gonna laugh. I have watched.
The laugh track will make me hate it
Yeah,
more.
exactly.
Why are you laughing?
Why are all of those people? They didn't sign up for that.
I
They
watched,
probably
like,
recorded that
4
laughing at something
episodes
genuine.
of Big Bang Theory back to back because I'm like, people tell me this is funny. I'm gonna sit down and watch this. And to me, that show is the furthest thing from funny. I don't find the jokes funny. I don't find them well written. Other people enjoy it. That's fine.
The problem
But for
is,
me,
because it's based on nerd culture, the jokes have to be as broad. So it's like
Didn't Seinfeld have a laugh track?
or Batman.
Yeah.
The joke is, it's
Those
it's
were
more
well-timed
them
laugh
throwing
tracks, though,
out
weren't
that
they?
stuff.
I don't think they had to beef them up either.
Yeah, those.
It's more them throwing out references without
It's like if he
proper
says,
context,
like the
right?
Hobbit,
And that's
you're
why
like,
I don't
oh,
find it funny.
nerds like Hobbit.
The writers on this are just looking at a chart of nerd stuff.
Yeah.
You go, let's reference this now.
But the
because
fact
he said
that
fart.
They do
And it's
dig
like,
though, because they'll have like Leonard Nimoy, Joss Whedon, like they
I know,
dig
but
for
it
cred every.
depresses me. Depresses me. It's like
That's what makes
Will
it worse.
Wheaton must need a paycheck this week because why would he be
Hey,
on this?
Geek
Will-
and Sundry
Will
probably
Wheaton?
keeps him
Will
busy.
Wheaton?
Really? Joss's
Wheaton.
brother.
No, Will
Yes.
Wheaton.
Oh, sorry. I
Young-
misheard. I thought
young
you were
Will.
talking about the brother of Joss Whedon who wrote the music for
No,
Dr.
no,
Horrible.
Jed Wheaton.
Jed.
Jed
Jed and
Whedon.
Joss.
He's like the showrunner or whatever on the new Shield show.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
can't wait for that. It's gonna be
But,
either terrible or
Will
awesome.
Wheaton does fine on his own sometimes, but like on that show, I just don't give me. That show just makes me angry at the laugh track. It's just like you're lying to me.
I too.
You're telling me this is funny, and I know better.
But that's I feel what most laugh tracks are for. Like there are
They're training wheels.
Like the weird thing is I've been rewatching a lot of Friends for whatever reason.
I do
and,
too.
but some jokes the audience is like ha ha ha, and I'm like that was the funniest thing ever. Like I have to pause because I'm like Chandler said the stupidest thing, and the audience is like
love
ha
Chandler.
ha ha. I'm like no, keep laughing. That was amazing. Listen to my
it
voice.
it makes me appreciate Friends and Seinfeld more. That terrible.
Friends has
like,
some good jokes.
Yes,
Yeah,
it really
like
does.
Molly and me. What's his name? Laurie, the guy who's Chuck Laurie, who's doing. He's the creator of Big Bang Theory, Mike and Molly, and Two and a Half Men.
All of them?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kill him.
Yeah. No, his insurance policy is probably really good.
That's okay. He will be around to collect.
And he's like
Marry him
the
first.
king of
comedy
right now.
I
He's
know what
like
I
the
was gonna say
king
first,
of
but-
mainstream comedy.
But
And-
it works.
And it doesn't. None of those shows compare to Seinfeld and Friends. And I'm not just saying that as like a nostalgia thing. I've watched them now, and I've seen Seinfeld episodes a million times. They are still hilarious.
I
when
know.
you discuss it, the premise of a lot of their jokes, it's hysterical even without seeing it. I can reference my favorite Seinfeld moment. Honestly, is Kramer trying to find out what happens when the tank goes past E in your car,
Yeah.
and
They're driving all episode.
He blacked out and woke up in a ditch with a full tank of gas. Just the
the worst
premise
thing.
is hysterical.
Just a side note, watching Friends now, I'm like, this show is so sexual. My mom liked this show. What was she watching?
Mom is sexual.
Where did I come from? Ah! You know, because every joke is a wink and a nudge, nudge. Say no more. And I'm like, what's going on here?
I've rewatched Friends more times than I care to admit.
It's got
always
some
was
decent
like,
jokes.
I was like, oh, Friends doesn't compare to Seinfeld, but now I'm watching it on late night TV sometimes, and it is really funny.
Yeah.
It holds
Or
up.
can be anyway.
Whether it's a sexual joke or they're insulting each other, like
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. The thing that makes it for me like a good comedy show is that I love characters. Like that's the thing that I love about
Yeah.
any series, whatever. If you have a character that is likable, whether he's a douchebag or not or whatever.
Well,
if
there's
he's-
lovable douchebag. That
yeah,
exists.
exactly. A lovable asshole.
That exists.
It's if you have that, I think they can they can make it work no matter how silly they are. Like it's just like I don't know. It's weird. I'm very character driven.
I'm sure there are many comedians out there who have said this, and I can't remember the one who was famous for it in England, but it was what makes it so funny. He said, no, it's not what I'm saying, it's how I'm saying it. And that everyone knows that. Because I feel like there's a stigma that follows certain comedians that the moment you like them, they're locked in. The moment they're good. Now they can do almost anything. Because you're thinking, now I want to see how this guy is in that situation. Characters develop a following. So that laugh track we're talking about, sometimes that's a signifier for not this is funny so much as, oh, this is that character being classic them.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I started watching a bunch more stand-up comedy. I love my Dave Chappelle, my Louis C.K. I never really followed Louis Black before. Big Canadian comedian.
Yeah.
And yeah, he is. I mean, so we should love him.
He's the one that we don't pimp out a lot.
But the thing was,
yeah.
I'm on Netflix and I click on this thing. I'm like, all right, I've never seen him before. Let's check this out. And he opens with he has a newspaper. He's like, it's Valentine's Day, and everyone coming up, and everyone's laughing. I'm like, okay, Valentine's Day's coming up.
Yeah,
My wife likes Valentine's Day, and I'm like, okay, she likes, okay. she's a whore or something like that. I'm just like, he's talking about
You're never
stuff.
gonna make it.
Throwback. That's called a throwback to a previous episode of Right Nice.
Go ahead, check
That
it
guy,
out.
yes. Isn't he Canadian?
He's from Maryland.
Someone told me he was
not
Canadian.
Maryland, Canada.
Someone told me he was Canadian.
I mean,
Can we now check, just for
11th
humor's sake, if there was a
province,
Maryland kid?
Regardless of that fact, the point was I didn't get his humor because everyone had expectations. It's like, oh, he's gonna say something about his wife.
Well,
He's
they
like,
didn't- you know
she
what?
likes Valentines, and I'm like,
They didn't come there
I guess
for-
she does.
They didn't go there for the material. They went there for him.
Exactly, and I appreciate that entirely. Like I could probably now go see Louis C.K. and he could say anything, and I'll love it. Regardless, he's amazing.
Side note from this: have you guys watched Louis?
I haven't yet. I've been meaning to. It's really good, I hear.
I didn't like it much. I've seen a couple episodes.
I totally respect that. If anyone gets a chance, though, it's there's no continuity. You can hop in anytime, and it's a series of vignettes.
The episode with Dane Cook was really good.
That was excellent. Yeah. That was,
saw
do you
that.
know the story behind that? Yeah. It riveting. You guys all know the relationship between. Yeah.
I know that they will. One of the big things was the joke similarity was the
No,
naming
not
your child,
similarity.
wasn't it?
Dane
Or
Cook.
rip-off?
Dane Cook straight up has been. There are
joke.
at least 3
I'll
jokes.
name my child. What's the other 3? Oh, go for it.
I'm not going to go into what the 3 are.
Do a stand-up.
No. So anyway, there are a number of
Gotta get up
jokes.
and move around.
This episode of Louis, they wanted to have a confrontation. This is a big deal because they've never done it. Louis C.K. in interviews has never said, I think he stole my jokes. He is just
Everyone
never-
else said it for
Everyone
him.
said it for him. He never defended him. That was Dane's big.
Comedy is a weird world where
Exactly.
no one respects. Like,
So,
yeah.
so Louis C.K. had his people called Dane, and they were like, "Listen, Louis wants to have you on the show. They want to. It's real, but not. They're like, do you want to do this like in a scripted way? Louis is gonna write it though." And Dane was immediately. They were both very proud, and they're like, "No, we're not gonna do this." And they kicked things back and forth, and they were really arguing about how to play it. Like, are we gonna play it like we're just really funny and like make it hammy? And C.K. was like, "Nah, man. I think we should just
Make it awkward.
hash it out."
Brutal.
And they did, and they had a really poignant conversation. And
Why
there,
not?
did you
Why
feel
not?
there was still comedy there?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
funny.
I also, I mean, Shaggy has had a whole Shagga rant about this. How
Shagga rant.
I love the Shagga
I
rant.
love that.
about how
YouTube Shaggy Shan. Yeah.
how it's entirely possible. I genuinely think that I respect Dane Cook. I think he's a really funny guy. So I don't think he stole those jokes. Like people tell me Carlos Mencia steals jokes.
This
believe
guy
him.
said it.
Carlos Mencia.
I support
This
it.
guy said it. He supports it.
What was it that
He
CK
does.
had said? He said he didn't think he stole it. He called him a jet turbine or something like that. Success.
Like
Yeah.
there's a couple theories out there because there's the idea of multiple discovery where we all live in the same world, we all have similar experiences. Is it impossible to come up with a similar joke? I don't know. Second step, there's forgetful memory where it's like you heard something once, you completely forgot about it, and then you rewrite that song, and be like, oh, this is a good song.
You know-
Oh shit, it already exists.
Here's the thing. I think what CK had said to him was. Because these 3 jokes, if you do listen to them like separately, you're like, whoa, those are way too similar to be fragmented subconscious.
Yeah.
And also, CK has said, dude, I was performing them and I saw you in the back of the room. You were there. So he says, like, I can place you. You've heard them. I know you've heard them. I think I got it now. He said, Dane, I think you're this like a turbo engine on a jet of success. And I think that you got so big, so fast, so hardcore that this jet is spinning that you can't account for what it sucks up. And I think
I
that,
can believe that.
and he said that I think that when someone gets on stage and you're really feeling the crowd and they're liking you, that I think it can be very easy for something to be removed and you to allow yourself to go somewhere that you didn't plan on going. You know?
I can believe that to a
I can
degree.
definitely
Yeah.
believe that.
He blew up
Yeah.
a little too fast
No,
for his own good
and
problem.
he said, I do not think that you consciously said,
The dude-
I'm going to steal that joke.
The dude was in Mystery Men as the toaster. Like
Yeah,
that
man.
was like a bit
The waffler
hard.
that's-
Waffler. He
Yeah.
was there for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, man.
I saw Stephen Wright on stage a few years ago, and he was telling jokes from the 80s. And this is a guy, he's a hilarious comedian, and it's all one-liners, but he's got like 200 jokes. He may come up with a new one every once in a while, but it's like he uses these same stock jokes. And Dane Cook has put out like three
Couple albums, different
totally
content.
different comedy albums, 3 or 4 different albums within a span of like 5 years. You know, it's like a ton of content, and it's entirely possible that
Yeah.
he just sucked up new stuff.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make it. I'm not saying good for him. It's like,
Yeah.
You still gotta be like, dude, check your source material sometimes. But because I listen to a couple of comedy podcasts, one of them Keith and the Girl, if you're following that, a bunch of others, and there's a lot of talk about like comedy often doesn't get as much respect as many other things like songs, and stories, books, music, movies, because it's like you can come up with another joke. What does it matter if someone steals yours? It's like, but
So that's the thing. There is something poetic about comedy, and it is an art form. And just because. That's the thing, we just discussed the class level, like commoners comedy and
Yeah,
like hoity-toity
blue-
fine
blue
wine comedy.
collar and all
It's I
that.
bet you no matter where you stand on that spectrum, even if you're the finest of wines of comedy, it's not going to be appreciated like poetry. But then again, who's on first? There are certain comedy bits that are timeless, that are considered. But the thing is, these aren't fine wine connoisseurs, are they? They're just timeless.
yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you think is the status of comedy as far as being considered an art form in the same way that poetry and a well-written script is?
Well, probably it depend on the circle that's looking at it. As the general public, probably not the same as like
Well, people go to if Dave
Let the
Chappelle
fucking
comes to town.
students. Let the fucking students answer.
I will lead to
Right.
that, but if Dave Chappelle comes to town, people will be like buying tickets.
They've
But
got all
comedy
the
as an art
answers,
form.
and meanwhile you're gibbering away.
They go to
How
school
about
for
they
I
go to
move the
school for
microphone over to
We are accredited clowns.
Alrighty. You go first.
Now, why don't you climb this mountain first?
What?
Why don't you climb this mountain first?
Well, comedy as
You'll be
art.
his Sherpa.
Well, I always say that comedy when everybody's just like, oh, comedy, oh, like especially when actors that they only do theater or musical theater. Like my friends, she's like a musical theater passionate, and she was like, oh, I cannot, imagine myself do a stand-up or like telling jokes, like having that pressure of being funny. And it came to my in my head, I'm just thinking, oh well, comedy is pretty much like a very, very aggressive art in the business, because it's not only for entertaining, but it's having that pressure of being funny. It's just like, are they gonna laugh at me? Are they just gonna stare at me? Or what other comedians are gonna think of
in the
me?
world who's like, I hope people laugh at me.
Yeah. It's just like, oh my god, I really hope I'm funnier than my mom thinks. Like, it's just,
I thought it was just gonna be Mom. I hope I'm funnier than her. My mom's Helen Hunt.
I think there's a certain artistic integrity to comedy, but you can also do comedy by numbers, which isn't a great thing to do if you want to get respect in the community.
So let me ask, as students of comedy, if indeed you call yourselves that, which I don't know that you do, but
Is that on your card? Students of
I think my card says warrior poet.
that's beautiful. Who do you respect as comedians?
Well, we've each got our own set of influence. It really depends on what you try to do. Like
No, I only want to hear who both of you together consider.
like one person. Who is it?
And for comedy's sake, it better be Dangerfield.
we sort of occupy opposite spectrums.
yeah. It's weird. We have the same. We like pretty much the same type of comedy, but the way we write comedy, it's totally different. But oh wow, that's a tricky question.
Let's go deep.
I was asked this when I auditioned, actually, and I believe then I answered Don Rickles.
Good one. My dad is a big fan. So if you're in the same realm as a 60-year-old, but it's a good place to be.
What do you guys think is
60
the
on the inside.
funniest movie you've ever seen? And these can change. I hate picking favorites for movies, especially because I just can't.
I can pick favorite movies.
It just has such a vast collection. I have vast appreciation for him. But I've always said that. Oh, sorry, I'll throw mine in for The Jerk with Steve Martin. Has always
I've never
been-
seen the whole thing.
It's
Bits and pieces.
it's a real treat.
Example of picaresque narrative.
Yeah.
Yes. Honestly, when he there's this. He's so excited to have his name in the phone book.
Yeah.
He's so excited, and he just feverishly and breathing and panting, he looks up from it and says, "Things are going to start happening to me now." Hard cut to a dude flip, boom, rifle, and it's it's the worst thing that could happen to you having your name in a phone book.
I
Yeah.
heard a really funny thing. Apparently, Steve Martin has a set of cards. So if you meet him in person, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to tell all my friends that I met Steve Martin. He'll hand you the card and it says, I met Steve Martin. So it's like you have to prove to people.
In the 80s, Bill Murray. This sounds in league with it. Bill Murray would come up behind you, cover your eyes, and go, guess who? Yeah. And then no, not guess who. Sorry, he'd cover your eyes, and when you turn to see him, he'd say, "No one will ever believe you." And then he walks away. He says that, and I'm going to make it a rule. I'm going to say that as often as possible. I think that's such a funny thing to do to someone. No one will ever believe you.
All right, who's next? Funniest
Right
movie.
here, guys.
Yeah.
Everybody's okay?
Are you ready for foursies?
You should catch up to me first.
I'm on secondsies. I think
You're
I
on
may,
secondsies?
I may stick with secondsies.
Oh my god.
Yeah, his is organic.
Mine's organic.
Well,
Like I have.
it's liquid bread. Surely it's all organic.
Enough of the sillies for me. Who else is your favorites? Like,
No. Let's finish his.
That was his
question.
point. You said you
His
brought
question was favorite movies.
That's what I said.
You
Who
had
else's
too many
favorites?
thirdsies.
I said who's favorites.
So the epitome of a comedy film for you guys, and why really? I mean, that'll pertain to the
What?
I don't know.
Oh, the
it's,
highest
it's
one.
very.
And if that one's too hard for us, we can go back to the connoisseur one. What you feel is fine.
Am I allowed
wine
to talk?
comedy.
Because Graham is censoring me.
Someone has to.
I
The
really.
horn.
Fill the dead air.
I do really. Once again, going back to Mr. Show, I find I really appreciate humor through editing and such. Edgar Wright's films like Hot Fuzz.
There it is,
I
yeah.
find the humor is in the speed cuts to mundane things like opening a locker, putting down a
Listen,
flower plant.
I was going to say Spaced for that reason. If you
I've
watch-
been meaning to watch Space.
You're an
I haven't
editor
done it
and you
yet.
don't watch Spaced?
I haven't watched it, but I love, and I know like his film, the cinematographer is a dude from like Evil Dead and
No,
Team America.
right, that's the thing.
And that shit is like the punching is the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The
Spaced-
camera punching in is the punchline.
Spaced is
That's genius.
completely informed how I want to tackle cinematography and editing in general. I love the way it moves. It's all in the apartment, and it's creative. Like, they wanted to say 1 hour later, so they had it on the ashtray, and the ashtray was the O of one. And like they just knew how to use the space so well.
Yeah.
And that's really what an indie filmmaker kind of has to do.
It's use what you
how
have
do
and
we
use it brilliantly.
How do we visually enrich our storytelling with one location? And that's an excellent example that anything can be good. I mean, that's just a bunch of people in an apartment without a laugh track, and that show is fantastic,
it's very inspiring,
creative.
I think.
And Edgar Wright is amazing. Like I heard a story that he lived with Quentin Tarantino for a year. He lived in like his pool house or something. It's like, I want to be you.
You have the life.
Or at least get that pool house.
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
What's the rent on that, like?
It's like the pool is probably my rent. Yeah.
His new movie coming out this summer,
Yeah.
World's End.
Yep.
Is there another end of the world movie coming out?
There's-
Comedy with an all-star comedy cast of humorous
Seth
people.
Rogen and
Yep.
James Franco and Jay Baruchel.
Pretty much everybody.
All the fun.
Where you almost don't need it. Some movies, and I don't know how they do this. I don't know what the regulations are, because you know how you
How
have
funny
like
can it be?
no, you have a
Funny. Stop it.
You have a script supervisor because you need to obey the script to a certain extent. We all know which films have that. Keep the camera rolling. Let's do
Improv,
a linorama.
But that's all based on the director half the time.
Here's the thing, though. Legally, he would have to have a certain producer role for it because it's a cover your ass situation. If something gets said and recorded on film, whether it's used in the final cut or not, you're accountable for it. So if my comedian Seth Rogen is getting on a little too anti-Semitic,
Whatever the odds are.
that's an issue because it goes to
You've all seen Freaks and Geeks.
Hang on now. What if it gets to the editor? The editor hears that in the B-roll, and
he's offended.
Throws his headphones off, and he sues the production company. He's like, "I work for Universal. Why am I being sent this garbage?" So that's why you have script supervisors as well. It's one of the many reasons that they have to obey it so much. The account where Kevin Smith had written his own stuff for Die Hard. That was supposed to be a really quick shoot. You all heard the evening with Kevin Smith. You all know, yeah. That's how slow the process is. Like they couldn't get back to filming until you printed it on pink sheets and then read the script and printed it on green sheets, and you had to wait until you had it on paper before you filmed it again. You couldn't just say cut, have a chat, and then do it again.
Are most like Judd Apatow films improv?
That's why I'm so damn confused, because there are some films where people just improvise shit, and then
like
there are some films where it's no, Mr. Willis, I'm sorry, go back to your trailer, we'll see you in an hour.
Is there an insurance policy on improv?
I think that I think you need veto power, and I think to get veto power, it's creative control. I was just throwing it out there in case any of you heard. I'm sorry I offered it without answers, but it's one of those things I wonder about a lot of weird shit, like how is foreign poetry rhyming only in English and not in their own language? Why don't they? That's fucked up. What if they just never heard of English and it's like, well, I'm a Frenchman, I've never encountered any other language. When they write poetry, how do they make it rhyme?
There's a great book called On Film or something. Or Conversations. It's a conversation between Michael Ondaatje, the writer, and Walter Murch, the editor. And one of the things he talks about is he in his spare time, Walter Murch translates this Italian poet. Just that's what he does in his like free time. I was like, this is amazing. Like, how do you do that? But that's what he does. Anyway, Chris, you were in the midst of saying your favorite movie or comedy or whatever.
I guess favorite comedy movie. Recently, I guess it would probably be Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, my dad loves
Is that
movie.
Steve Martin?
My dad.
Once again,
Spliced
Steve
into
Martin.
film noir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's just so good.
I would not.
your pajamas.
I would
We're
not
a
have
tie, for God's
appreciated
sake.
that.
Like, I love some of the editing bits that I love so much is when they take a whole bunch of the classic film noir movies
Yep.
and just like splice it into the film
Over the
and
shoulder.
Yeah, and it's just
It was
so
like
funny
Kung
to
Pao.
see. Oh crap, I can't remember his name right now.
Reiner?
No, not Reiner. The other film noir guy,
James Cagney.
Humphrey
Humphrey Bogart.
I was going to say that.
And just the reactions to what Steve Martin is saying to Humphrey Bogart and Humphrey Bogart's
Deadpan.
expressions
Yeah.
is just like fucking hilarious.
Well, I think I got into film noir first, and then I saw that film.
That's
so,
probably good for you.
Yeah.
Same here. Which
So much
did it
good
for
stuff.
me.
The first time I saw it, again, I said one of my dad's favorite movies, so I watched it before I knew anything about film noir. So I thought the funniest parts were like the cleaning woman jokes. Cleaning woman! And like your boobs fell all out of whack.
No,
He's washing his
boobs were
gun,
skewed.
washing his gun in the sink and stuff, shaving his tongue.
So on that note, how does when they were making that movie, I know that people who have seen all those film noirs and love film noir are going to enjoy it, especially, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because you know
Very catered
both
audience.
sides
It's
of
like
the conversation.
They made that movie knowing it was gonna make like $10.
Don't know if you can make
Exactly.
that anymore. Yeah,
Like, it's
Too
an
much of a risk.
inaccessible movie to anyone who doesn't watch or even care for film noir. You're just like, this is weird and quiet.
It's a
It's like,
magical time.
so how do you feel about making something for specific audiences and such?
Well, right now, is there anything that you feel is a catered audience outside of web properties?
Community. Community is a catered. It is 100. It has become this beast of inside baseball.
Will that be its downfall? Is the question.
I thought its downfall was going to be firing Dan Harmon, but really, I mean, well,
Give it a few episodes.
I heard that
I just felt like it would be. He was so part of the process, more so than just the creator and a writer, that I felt like you would notice his touch is gone. But then I remembered these people they've got their characters. They know who they are. They know what they're doing. It's going to be just fine. And also Seinfeld, creator wasn't part of it the whole way through. I think by season 4 he was off board. You know, yeah.
Like Larry David?
Larry David by season 4 was not part of that production anymore in the way you think. Yeah. And a lot of people would argue that Seinfeld got especially good from 4 and on. Yeah. Or wait. Yeah.
Do you know the
I
specific
misspoke.
episode?
No.
Or just like the soup or the...
No, I just heard a lot of people who said that they agreed with the sentiment that a creator being attached to the project is not necessary.
Doesn't Abrams jump ship after 2 seasons usually or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, he practically jumped ship after episode 1. I mean, that was supposed to be Jack was Batman and died.
That's true.
Jack was supposed to be Keaton, and he was supposed to die.
Did anyone watch that Alcatraz?
With Alcatraz with
Hurley.
Clint Eastwood?
With Hurley
That's Escape from
and-
Alcatraz.
The TV show with Hurley and the guy from Jurassic Park, Sam Neill.
Yeah.
And
There's a-
someone else.
It was Jaws. Abrams. It's like, oh, Abrams got another mystery coming.
Oh, he's got a new show, doesn't he?
No, that was a couple
It's
years
already
ago.
been canceled.
Oh, it's been
We're
canceled.
very behind the
Because like then it's
I'm
like
behind on
he
something
made an
that doesn't
episode,
exist.
and they're like Star Trek.
That's the
and he's like,
ultimate
"Whoa."
old.
What about you guys? Any favorite comedy movies?
What makes the comedians laugh?
nothing.
I'm
That's why
I'm way too funny for that.
Only my own work.
I mouth my own words.
I got into this business to make it funny.
I mouth every sketch. But
No sketch
I
show, TV, movie, nothing.
I think for TV, it's weird, but I've been having, it makes me laugh every time I see it. I don't know why, but it's Modern Family makes me laugh a lot. Maybe because
It's got moments.
it's very,
I do laugh at that show.
It's very, family like, and again, I always say that.
It's just Sofia Vergara for you, isn't it? I can tell.
She's hot. Come on.
Do you know what? What's great about that show is that even when it gets sentimental, it doesn't get cringe.
Yeah.
Because some sentimentality in shows make me like, oh, the family's hugging.
the guitar stuff.
Yeah,
And
and in
you're
this
like,
one, I think
here's the moment.
the best sentimental character on that show is Ed. Is it Ed? Ed
O'Neill or whatever.
Ed O'Neill, that's it. Yeah, he's great because he's such a man about it. But like, it doesn't. I never regret watching that show. It either makes me laugh or I was working on something. Simple as that. Like, TV's the radio.
No time lost. Yeah.
What about yourself, sir?
I don't really play favorites with things.
Good. Good. Well, what's
They're like my
What
kids.
makes you laugh?
They're all my favorites.
Nowadays. Movie or television show that makes you laugh a lot?
Surprisingly, I think the last thing that really made me laugh was actually Snatch. And I think it's because it subverted my expectations. Of what
Snatch is so good. The movie? We're talking about the movie, not a vagina.
I want to meet the comedian.
Funniest damn thing I've ever seen.
I want to meet the comedian who's just glaring at a bar with his beer, and it's what makes you laugh? Nothing. That's why I'm in this business, to hopefully create something to make me laugh. Well, what do you watch? Pussy.
This is like
I go on.
Hilarious.
I just go to Video One and I look at the bloopers.
It sounds like some sort of Pinocchio story or something. He wants to grow to be a real comedian, but for now, the porn section.
I want to be a
For
real
now, the
comedian.
naked blue fairy.
Once I cracked a smile, that's as close as I ever came.
Why is Robin Williams on the TV talking to sports people? Is he
God.
doing a commercial?
He did a really awkward Nintendo commercial
Oh,
for the
this is
game
it.
Zelda.
This
All
is-
right. Oh my god.
I think this is
You ever
another
see
need to
that?
watch.
That was
That's a
amazing.
Snickers commercial.
That was amazing.
It was so weird.
Daughter's name is
His daughter's name is
But that
Zelda.
was so strange that they both
That
said,
was the reason.
yeah, let's do this commercial together, Dad. I'm like, all right.
kinda
Who minded
named me
Dad?
Zelda.
Have you seen the commercial?
Cute.
Have you seen the commercial with Selma Hayek, or not Selma Hayek, Penelope Cruz and her sister doing a
What they
Game Boy
did.
commercial?
What's her name?
They made out.
What? Like just like the dual screens.
Now there might
Let
be an
this
internet
be on the record.
I gotta find this.
If you get Salma Hayek to kiss anybody in a promotion, I will buy the product. You haven't fooled me. This is an agreement.
Lately, Dumb and Dumber keeps coming up for me as one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It is so
hands
good.
are freezing.
I love that. I love that he has the two sets of gloves. It's so absurd.
And then he's being rightfully choked, and your hands are freezing.
So good. So you're saying I have a chance. So good.
Do you know? And also, one of the last great quotable movies. 'Cause Do you know what movie ruined
Most annoying
quoting?
sound in the world.
Well, what really ruined quoting movies? Anchorman and University.
I never had that.
How can that ruin it though?
So many dudes who aren't funny and relied on laugh track training wheels growing up thought they were funny because they recognized how funny Will Ferrell was.
quoting Will
So
Ferrell
quoting Will Ferrell made
popularity.
slash being Ron Burgundy made them funny. So if you're at a party, men talking like this thing, it's so tired now that when people do it.
Austin Powers or Borat voice.
Yes. Do you know, luckily Borat didn't
Shag
last
ya,
long.
baby.
Though. That was a.
Yeah.
Randy.
Everyone said yeah, baby. Even if
That
they
was
didn't
big.
commit.
That was big.
That was very big. Extras having a catchphrase. The wig, the glasses,
Yes.
the catchphrase. Loved it.
That was amazing.
Ricky Gervais.
Just always those three. The wig, the glasses. Loved it.
I have one final question before, because we've gone over a good
7.5.
hour and a half, man.
Yeah.
One final introspective question.
Oh.
Let's go back. Let's go back to your childhoods. When was the first time you remember being funny? What was like the funniest thing when you got that response, that high, that comedy high, you bastards?
Let me say that my mom was an easy laugh, and she would always fake laugh. My mom was easy.
I did this
in
puppet
many
show.
ways. That's how I was.
Brought the house down.
She would laugh at anything I said, and when I realized that, I was like, oh. And she would laugh, and my dad would be completely silent. I realized, like, he's the guy. Yeah, he would.
Throw shit at you. Beer
Dad,
bottles.
why do you have tomatoes and lettuce?
Your dad was a heckler?
He would pull me out of the car with a cane.
Professional. He's like, son, you gotta learn the hard knocks.
But I was like,
Not funny at all, you boy.
I knew if I was, in order to be funny, I actually had to make him laugh and not my mom laugh. If she laughed, it was like fine, but I had to make him laugh.
was the goal.
For it to be actually funny.
I feel I understand that actually. Dads are the harder crack to crack.
Crack to nut?
The crack to nut.
That's why crack you've never nut.
Continue, Chris.
Really want to nut my dad. This is all coming out wrong. Listen, so there's this crack. And a nut.
Chris, what do you got? Save me.
I don't know. When I was a kid, I think when you're a kid, it's easier to make people laugh.
Yeah,
I mean,
because you're cute.
you're cute. You can say
Reenact
things.
Wizard of Oz.
You do things that that are part of your imagination and that you think up, and like parents will laugh because it's weird for a kid to think that way.
It's endearing. It's like, oh, you said something mature.
Or you're a kid and you make other kids laugh by saying something completely stupid, but the kids laugh along with you because they're kids, and their taste for comedy really isn't well developed at the age of 6. I mean, I think they're still working on their
They're working on their shtick.
tastes.
They're getting it together.
I agree with that. I was always working on my shtick as a kid. Like, I know times I made people laugh and was being funny, but I was trying to be funny. I think I really appreciated laughter and comedy and all that when I was playing on 64 WWE. When you get
tour, or?
No, I think it was the one where you get to pick weapons from the audience and go back in.
Is that Revenge
Okay,
or SmackDown?
I used to play that with my older cousin. He was about 5 years older than me, and that's enough. That's older. He's big. And he used to just decimate me. And he'd be Hulk Hogan, and the way he'd speak, he would give voices to his character before and I hit you. And he just had a personality to it, and it was like our own interactive cartoons. I would laugh so hard that I was crying, and my ribs hurt, and it felt so good to make no sound. I was red in the face.
You can't breathe.
And we've all had it. We've all had it, and we're going to have it again.
I cherish those moments.
But that was one of the earliest times that I just thought, this is it. I want other people to have this. I love it. And I think that's when I stopped imitating Jim Carrey or doing like little sticky. My first laugh was in school. We had a big pageant about spaghetti, and I said that's a spicy meatball because I saw the mask.
Yeah.
That's to answer your question. But the time things changed for me was when I was the one laughing. And I was on the floor. I was in pain.
It's deep, man.
It was really profound for me, and I wanted other people to have it.
See, I got away with South Park impersonations in school because I remember distinctly one girl wrote for, in Christmas you have to all write Christmas stories and shit.
Yeah.
One of them she wrote was based in South Park, and she wanted me to read it for the class, and I'm like, this is my moment because I could do a really good Cartman as a kid. And
This is it.
Name and lights. But it's like, as a kid, I find like I stopped being very out there with comedy in high school. Like in random classes, I would have like punchline answers to like English class and religion class jokes, and somewhere in the middle, I just stopped doing it. And I don't know why, but I remember being very excited to have that punchline. For some reason, the humor ended in high school. I don't know why. I wanted to say something deep like you did. Okay, there you go.
Oh, I didn't mean it to sound deep.
You always say deep things. But yeah, so it's just kind of like, I remember being funnier in high school, or at least more trying to be funny in high school.
Wasn't there a class in university where it was like a getting to know you thing, and they were like, all right, everyone name give your name and the drink you would have at a party or whatever. And everyone was like, oh, vodka cooler. And it got to Shaggy, and he was like,
How the fuck do you remember that?
chocolate milk or
Oh my
something.
god! I wasn't a drinker in the university. And so everyone was listing drinks and I couldn't think of anything.
The funny thing is, I wasn't even in that class.
How the hell do you hear about that?
Snap, cut to the airplane.
That just came back to me. Jesus Christ.
Actually, we've all come here for the same reason.
You have a problem drinking.
Yeah.
Not drinking.
That would be it. This is your intervention.
That is an amazing memory you just gave me. Wow.
Intervention, you need another 3 beers.
Wow. That is real.
Leave some booze for us.
Holy shit, I did say chocolate milk.
Yeah.
What a revelation. Continue.
Okay.
When did you realize you were funny as a kid or an adult or now?
Well, I think it was more in high school, and it wasn't more like us like making people happy. But it was because I was always, I'm not sure if you guys have that problem, probably not, because I was always the shy, quiet guy, always, until like in high school. At the last year in high school, I did a play, and everybody wanted to cast. It was a Bible play, and everybody wanted me to be just one of the guys. Like the teacher, she was like such a theater snob, and she was just like, "Oh, you're gonna be like a pastor. I'm gonna put like the class clowns as the funny guy." And I was just like, "Why don't you do on auditions?" So she was just like, because I know I'm the writer and the director, so I know what I'm getting. So like, do the auditions, come on, like, I mean, it's good. And she's like, okay, fine. She's like, Jorge wants to do the audition. I'm like, you bitch, you got the challenge. How dare you?
You should have said that actually.
You
bitch.
I was so
That would have been
I was
so
so
A little kid? Oh yeah.
Adults love
If
that.
I heard a kid, yeah, oh, he's a dude.
It was in Spanish, like everything was Spanish. So like I was talking to my girlfriend, I was like, "Chicapone con la chingada," like
Did you call her a chupacabra? Okay. I thought that's what you called her.
she looked like one. I said pinche cabrona.
She looked like one.
So when we did the auditions, like I'm pretty decent about like faking my voice and everything. So like I made everybody laugh because they were like, "Oh my god, the guy who didn't speak at all, he's like fucking crazy and everything." So I just look at the teacher and I just at the teacher, she was just like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." And I was just like, okay, I was like, yeah, damn right. And I got that role, and I was like,
There you go.
screw you.
Funny bastard. Jim, what's
So
up?
that's pretty much
Seventh
more
grade.
revenge.
7th grade?
And I had spent almost the entirety of my school career up until that point trying to be cool and fit in with everyone.
Sorry, I don't know why I laughed at that.
I understand.
Tragedy.
I know what I look like.
It's not an accident.
This is all deliberate.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Years of physical neglect.
These aren't sideburns, they're hairy scars.
7th grade.
Torment on my face. So I had unsuccessfully spent most of my school career trying to be cool. A lot bigger than all the other kids in a lot of ways. When we played sports, I was sort of had that like of mice and men problem where I accidentally hurt people a lot.
Right.
Broke a few necks.
So 7th grade, I just decided, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what people think of me anymore. And I just started being a jackass, and everyone loved me.
That first half is really great to get that early. That fuck it all mentality. A lot of people don't get that until after high school.
So it's not that we tried to lead to this conclusion. I'm building this now in my mind. It seems our ambitions and our confidence in humor comes from getting those laughs. We said something funny once and people enjoyed it, and we're like, let's do it again. Let's get that again out of people. We like to give joy. We like to receive the feeling of what we gave to others, to us.
All over our faces.
We don't give a shit what people think of us at the same time. Lots of confidence boosting, and since we opened with a depressing quote, let's end with a depressing quote from our British friend Matt Jones. Someone won't laugh at your joke. Thank you, Matt. This has been the Humor Right Nights. I really enjoyed this one. Maybe it was the beers in me, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Find out more about Right Night by joining the Facebook group. It's on Facebook.